Hey everyone. So, like I said at the beginning, thanks for joining us today for the Water Week Innovation Showcase. My name is Shashank Chirakanti, and I'm a venture associate at Evergreen Climate Innovations. To start, I mean, obviously, no one needs any reminder of how critical a resource water is. However, recently it has been a bit undeniable that there's been a lot of visibility into, the extended droughts that have led to shortages in reservoirs and rivers really throughout the world. And to bring it a bit closer to home, I've lived in Southern California for the majority of my life, and reading about the current state of like the Colorado River system and the associated reservoirs there is pretty alarming. I think it's pretty clear it's a situation that we obviously need to invest in order to reverse and improve the trajectory so that we're not in a very scary place in, as soon as 5 years. So all that is to say that the companies presenting here today are doing some very important work, and we're excited to have them showcase that work to all of you today. Um, so to give a brief overview of the agenda, so we'll start with a brief introduction about Evergreen and what we do, and then we'll follow that with 5 different company pitches. Each company will have about a 5 to 7 minute presentation, and we'll leave for a couple minutes for Q&A for each of the companies. So please feel free to drop any questions you might have into the chat, and we'll relay that to them at the end of their presentation. We'll then give a brief overview of our Heartland program and wrap up by talking about some future events that we have on our calendar. So who are we at Evergreen? We're a seed stage venture capital firm based in Chicago focused on the sustainability space. Sustainability for us is quite a broad sector, and we invest in a number of different areas, some less obvious than others that still relate to sustainability. But we do ensure that every portfolio company that we invest in has the economic opportunity to scale and make a large difference, but also have a quantifiable impact that benefits society. We're capitalized fully by philanthropic money, and the fund is structured as an evergreen fund. So all profits that we get from exits and whatnot are rolled back into future investments. To date, we've made investments into 41 different portfolio companies and have had 5 successful exits to date. So as far as today, we have 5 companies presenting, each affiliated with the Heartland Partnership in some way, which we'll go into a little bit more detail at the end of the webinar. So to start out, we'll start with GOLeafe. They work with the Chain Reaction Innovations program at Argonne National Laboratory. Then we'll have AgriWater, which is a part of the Innovation Crossroads program at Oak Ridge. And we'll follow that with Kazati, which is a part of the MHub Hardware Accelerator program here in Chicago. And then Inspired Solutions, which is based out of the Centropolis Accelerator in Michigan. And we'll have Kadea, which is another Chicago company and actually an Evergreen portfolio company, which we just invested in last quarter. They will present at the end. So first up, I believe we have Arsheen from GOLeafe. Can you please turn on your camera and unmute yourself and share your screen?
Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Arsheen Alam. I'm part of the Chain Reaction Innovations program. Thanks for joining. Today, I'll tell you about my startup, GOLeafe, and our low-cost graphene-based capacitive deionization water filtration technology. Zash, it's not changing. As Shashank mentioned, we don't need an intro of how dire our water crisis is. The main thing I want to highlight here is the catalyst for me and for GOLeafe and why we've decided to go down this particular technology path is because we are keen on finding a way to tap into the 97% of Earth's water that's in the oceans. So what some of you may not be familiar is, what is graphene? Simply put, it's nothing but atomic carbon. However, at this atomic level, it has very remarkable properties. Most notably, it's extremely thin and lightweight, yet very strong and conductive. And you'll see why that's important in our technology as we go on. So even though it has all these cool properties, the reason why, so there's been a tremendous amount of academic evidence stating that graphene has potential to be great water filtration technology, but the reason why we don't see any of those on the market today is because under current production methods, it's one of the most expensive materials on Earth. So that's where GOLeafe comes in. We've developed a process to produce this material from waste. Any carbon waste, we can apply our chemical process to extract graphene oxide from it. So not only is this process low cost and scalable, it's also tunable based on the end use application that it's intended for. In this case, water filtration. Our process has up to 6 times less greenhouse gas emissions than typical graphene production methods used today. And we do have a granted patent on this process. So a little background, the way most desalination is done today is through reverse osmosis. And in this process, the water is being separated from the ions. So basically, these large saltwater molecules are being forced through these tightly pored membranes, which then requires a tremendous amount of pressure and energy, but it also results in up to 60% water wastage. And overall, the energy consumption ends up being over 50% of the cost of this reverse osmosis technology. So what we've done is we have developed these graphene electrodes, and we're able to functionalize them to be positively and negatively charged. And we take these graphene electrode pairs and stack them on top of one another, and we've created this capacitive deionization system. So unlike RO, where the water is being separated from ions, in this process, the ions are being separated from the water. The way this is happening is because, as I mentioned early on, graphene is conductive, we're able to apply a charge to our graphene electrodes, and the negatively charged graphene electrodes attract the positively charged sodium ions, and the negatively charged graphene electrodes attract the positively, whatever the opposite was, the positively charged graphene electrodes attract the negatively charged chlorine. So now the water can freely pass through and you get fresh water. So what this results in is we have up to 50% less water being wasted when compared to RO. It takes 50% less pressure, and that ends up being an up to 75% savings in energy. Now, these graphene electrodes are carbon-based, so they're chemically resistant and much safer to dispose of than the polymer membranes being used in RO. And the bottom line is, while this technology is cool, the best part is the per liter cost is 25% lower than reverse osmosis. It's almost a no-brainer to switch to a more sustainable technology that also happens to be cheaper. So this is an image of our CDI cell. And today, reverse osmosis has the same pre-filtration and post-filtration steps. So the switching cost from RO to CDI is very insignificant because RO membranes have to be replaced anyway. We've configured our CDI cell such that it can be plugged into existing RO plants, thus eliminating any significant switching costs. So again, I'm at the Chain Reaction Innovations, I'm in this Chain Reaction Innovation program at Argonne, and what I'm doing during this 2-year fellowship is we're using these funds to scale up our graphene production process from being lab scale to commercial scale through automation. We're also using the resources at Argonne to characterize this graphene material as we optimize it in the scaled up process. I'm also working with scientists there to use their equipment such as electrospinners to create graphene oxide membranes and testing those membranes to see how they may improve our electrode performance. And finally, we'll end with a techno-economic assessment of the technology. So quickly, our team consists of myself. I have a background in material science and engineering, as well as an MBA. I work with Dr. Shihab, who is a civil and environmental engineering professor, Abdul, who also has background in chemistry and happens to be a retired IT executive, so he brings a lot of business development experience. At Argonne, I'm working with Dr. Yupeng Zhang, who is a principal material scientist. It's in her lab where the graphene membranes will be synthesized. I have an awesome team of mentors and advisors, and our advisory board consists of seasoned entrepreneurs who have started and exited multiple businesses ranging from the energy sector to finance products. So we have garnered a number of recognitions globally and nationally. We're in the Chain Reaction Innovations program right now, but we've previously completed the Plug and Play and Cleantech Open accelerators and are currently in the Rice University Clean Energy Accelerator as well. So happy to be here. Happy to answer any questions as well. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Arsheen. We do have a question. Obviously, graphene has a lot of different applications and it's kind of been known as the wonder material. Can you give some details on how you're marketing your graphene product and describe who your ideal customer is?
Sure. So because we've been lab scale, we haven't been doing too much marketing because we can't provide the quantities that most customers want, but we do attend a number of trade shows and we have contacts just through the accelerators who have reached out, such as like paint companies are interested in using our material to enhance their coatings. A couple of different membrane companies have also reached out. So a lot of the marketing has actually come through programs such as this.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, I think we don't have any other questions at this time, so we'll move to the next company presentation. Thank you again, Arsheen. Bianca from AgriWater, can you please share your screen and present?
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Hello, everybody. My name is Dr. Bianca Bailey, and I'm the founder and CEO of AgriWater. AgriWater is taking liquid animal poop and turning it into clean water. So I'm sure everyone is familiar with the poop emoji. And for me, when I think about this emoji, it reminds me of a road trip that I took once through Illinois. And on that road trip, I actually passed a dairy farm, and unbeknownst to me, I smelled this very pungent smell. And later on, I realized that the smell coming from the dairy farm was actually emissions that were being emitted from an open lagoon where they store their animal waste. This is a big problem in the livestock industry. Waste management is a large problem. And as I continue my research, I saw that 500 million tons of animal waste is produced in the United States every year. That's a lot of waste, and it's a very stinky problem, and I'm here to solve it. With that 500 million tons of animal waste, that equates to over 1,000 times the weight of the Empire State Building, just to give you a quantification on how much waste we are actually producing in the United States every year. For example, take this farm right here. This is an overview of a factory farm. And the red pools that you see in the picture actually are the open waste lagoons where the animal waste sits. And you can see that there could be you can see a lot of problems that occur with this type of setup, especially if there's a high rainfall. You can get flooding and the toxic waste ends up in the rivers. This farm here in North Carolina got caught dumping 324,000 gallons of hog waste in a river. They were fined $1.5 million. The farmer actually was imprisoned, and the court ordered them to pay for an on-site solution to treat the hog waste on-site. So this is where AgriWater comes in. We are an environmental compliance solution to help farmers maintain and treat their waste on-site, and also ease the burden of EPA penalties when it comes to toxic discharge. We also want to help farmers recycle and reuse their waste, which will also help to decrease water costs on the farm. Right here, you are looking at a sample of our treated animal wastewater. We took a dairy wastewater from a local farm here in Illinois, and you're seeing the wastewater before the treatment of our technology, and to the right, the clear mason jar is after our technology. We actually use a process called electrolysis to actually electrify the animal wastewater, and that helps us to be able to precipitate contaminants out and remove it by settling. or filtering. If we look at the need for on-site wastewater treatment for livestock farmers, we see that there are about 8,000 regulated animal farms. And these animal farms have to abide by the Environmental Protection Agency water discharge violations. So this would be the market that is more susceptible to incurring a consequence for their toxic waste. And when we run the numbers, we see this is about a $2 billion, at least a $2 billion market if we're talking specifically for livestock. What's the status quo and what's actually typically used on a farm to manage waste? Well, if you look at the larger picture to the left, this is a picture of an open waste lagoon where the waste is actually being dredged out of the pond and pumped into a large vehicle to be hauled off-site. This hauling waste off-site actually costs farmers hundreds of thousands to even millions of dollars to do this every year. In the upper right-hand corner, you see a kind of gray coverage. This gray kind of tarp is actually over a lagoon, and it's called an anaerobic digester. It actually traps methane gas so that later on you can convert it to energy. Although this is a technique used on farms, it does not completely purify water to the point of reuse. Down in the lower right-hand corner of your screen is a picture of electrocoagulation, where we're simply using electrified iron or aluminum to be able to run a current through the wastewater, which will then stimulate flocculation that will allow us to be able to remove the waste. So this is the technology that AgriWater is wanting to introduce to farmers. Now, if we look at the overall impact of our technology for farmers, we see that number one, it will help ease their worries of meeting environmental compliance regulations, as well as allow them to save money on water. They'll have the ease of burden that their water is clean and they can either dump it or discharge it into the environment or reuse it on their farm. There's also an opportunity to be able to create a soil amendment market that the farmers can actually sell their animal waste for land application and make money or reoccurring revenue on this. Another idea is to generate electricity from this technology through hydrogen fuel. Last but not least, we want to help farmers in the livestock industry be able to decarbonize their wastewater. And by doing this, they'll be able to operate on the carbon credit market, which is not currently, there's not currently a model developed for monetizing decarbonization of animal waste. And as I mentioned earlier, we have 500 million tons of animal waste produced every year. So if we were to do a calculation on the amount of carbon credits by decarbonizing that waste, then farmers could create, could actually benefit very fruitfully from the carbon credit market. Currently, our team includes me. I'm Dr. Bailey. My background is in chemical engineering, environmental engineering, and ag and bioengineering. I've done lots of water projects abroad, specifically in Africa and Asia. And currently, I'm partnered with Oak Ridge National Lab. Our collaborator is Dr. Costas Touris, and his specification is in carbon capture storage. And last but not least, I'm currently working with the University of Tennessee dairy farm using their animal manure to run on my system so that we can actually communicate to them the success that we're having with treating their wastewater with our technology. Right now, we're actually in the process of raising $1 million to scale up our technology to a pilot form so we can have a full-size or mid-size pilot on the dairy farm. And currently we're recruiting farmers for focus groups. So if any of you know any farmers, please send them our way. We'd love to talk to them about waste management. And lastly, we are also in talks with the Tennessee Department of Environment to determine, well, what are those regulation discharge values that farmers need to have so that they don't have to be charged. Last, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Department of Energy, the Oak Ridge National Lab, the Innovation Crossroads Program, the 2-year program that I'm currently in, HBCU VC, and also the University of Illinois Enterprise Works. Again, my name is Dr. Bailey, and I'm the founder and CEO of AgriWater. AgriWater is taking liquid animal waste and turning it into clean water, a reoccurring revenue, and carbon credits for livestock farmers. Thank you for listening, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you, Dr. Bailey. We do have a few questions. There's been a lot of momentum towards utilizing waste across, a number of different sectors in order to produce, like productivity and general energy from. What trends are you seeing in this space, and are there any competitors in the market that are trying to do something similar with animal waste?
Well, thanks for the question. I would say I do see a little activity in the space of animal waste. There are a few companies that are specifically more so dealing with food and beverage, which is still kind of agriculture, but their technology could be used for animal waste. The trends that I see mostly for managing animal waste are in the more like biogas, harnessing the biogas from the waste in order to turn that into electricity. And yeah, I mean, the status quo currently right now is just the easiest way for farmers is just hauling the waste offsite or allowing it to sit and dry. So what we want to kind of speed up that process and also allow them to make some money in the process.
Yeah, certainly seems like a win-win. Well, thank you, Dr. Bailey. I think that's all the time we have for AgriWater right now.
Okay.
So we will transition over to Sansa, who will talk about CDI Enterprises.
Great, thank you for having me. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep. You're
all right.
Your Zoom would, yeah.
Yeah, my Zoom should have gone away. All right, great. So so everybody knows that we need cooling systems. They keep us alive. They keep us alive in areas that are otherwise too hot to be survivable. They take care of our food and our medicines. They're kind of like the hero of modern society that just takes care of us. But the truth is that cooling systems are kind of these kind of hidden villains in our system. And the reason is that they produce 3 times the CO2 of aviation and shipping combined. And the refrigerants that they use are oftentimes 3,000 times more potent as greenhouse gases than carbon dioxide. And so they create this vicious cycle where you have the emissions from the cooling systems that heat up the planet, that make more demand for cooling, which makes more refrigerants and emissions. And the world just gets hotter and hotter and hotter. And in places that now have sufficient cooling are finding that their cooling solutions are becoming no longer sufficient. And places that didn't need cooling solutions, like the Pacific Northwest, are finding that they do. So for me, this became personal when my mom moved to that house in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where there were no services, no electricity, no water, no gas, no roads. And I worried that, on those days that are 100 degrees and hotter, her house can get to 20 degrees hotter than that because it's an oven. It's got concrete walls and tin roofs. So I just worried that she would be too hot and there would be no way for her to stay cool. So I started wondering whether there is a way to provide cooling for her that didn't require electricity and didn't require conventional refrigeration. So my company has developed a solution that allows us to do that. And that is our technology platform allows us to use environmental heat as an energy source to provide cooling and heating. And so we can now provide those kinds of cooling solutions. Here's how it works. There are two parts to our technology. The first part that's illustrated on top combines water with a concentrated salt solution, and that combination produces both heat and cooling. Eventually, that salt solution becomes saturated and can't be used anymore, so it has to be recharged. And the second part of our system, which is illustrated below, uses environmental heat and airflow to dry out that salt solution, producing water vapor as a byproduct and recharging it so it can be used again. You put those two things together and you can create cooling solutions that can be basically put anywhere where people can survive. Our first commercial product for the developed world is our refrigerators. And these refrigerators use up to 90% less electricity than conventional refrigerators. And they also don't use conventional refrigerants. And so we're targeting the retail grocery market with these refrigerators. Now, why retail grocery? Well, first of all, it's a huge market, huge opportunity for us. But more importantly, if you look at the economics of retail grocery, you find that they have really slim margins, 1.4 to 1.6% of gross revenues. And because of that, they're barely making money. But because of that, if you also compare that to their electricity expenditures, most of which is for refrigeration, you find that if you can remove 90% of their electricity expenditures, then you can increase their margins by 60%. So I'm going to let that sit for you for a second. I'm going to repeat it. Just by changing the appliance that you use in those grocery stores, you can increase their margins by 60%. So that's a great opportunity for them, and it's a great opportunity for us. So what we're planning to do is to move forward creating this new company through JDAs and licensing. So we'll find OEMs that make refrigerators and create new products with them and license our technology so they can sell them. We'll also create metered energy systems that sit outside of all of the retail grocery stores that are using these refrigerators and recharge that solution. So those would be things that, installations that we own and maintain, and we can meter the amount of energy that they're using for their refrigeration, and that creates an ongoing revenue stream for us. We do have a corporate partner, B Medical Systems, that's already shipped us one of these wonderful blue refrigerators, and we are in the process of transforming our technology to the refrigeration application and then upgrading their refrigerator. So in the last couple of years, we've had a good amount of traction. We've gotten validation from the US Department of Energy through Chain Reaction Innovations at Argonne. We're part of Venture for Climate Tech. We're supported by Long Jump, Evergreen Nicor Gas. We're part of the M-Hub program, the Climate Tech program. We have 3 issued patents, 2 more pending, and we're doing ongoing development at Argonne National Labs of our core technology. So now this is all refrigeration. You may be wondering, this is water, things. So why are we even here? The reason is that we're building a technology platform. At the core of it, what it does is it makes it possible for us to use environmental heat as an energy source. And there are lots of uses. We are starting with refrigeration, but once we're established in that area, we plan to expand. We're expanding to improved heating and electrical power production and water purification. So in particular, desalination, we're planning to move into desalination and also on the site water purification, where the biggest problem for those industries really centers around energy. Where do you get your energy to do all these processes that will clean the water? We're getting our energy out of the air, and our technology allows us to do that. So that's not immediate, but it is eventual. We will get there. We've put together a team of advisors, experts, and expert scientists to work with us on this technology. We are actually growing our team at present. The collaborating scientists are coming to us from Argonne National Laboratory. Our advisors come from Google, Medtronic, and Briotech. Today, what we're doing is we're taking our technology platform and applying it to refrigeration. That should be completed in about 4 weeks. That work's going well, after which time we'll upgrade the B Medical Systems prototype and create our very first product using the technology. And we're also expanding our team. We're looking for a head of engineering, so an engineering lead. So if you know anyone, please do send them our way, someone who wants to kind of change the world with the new energy system. But for me, it always comes back down to here. My mom moved to that house and didn't have a solution available for her when she needed a cooling solution. And we know that people like my mom, people who live in the developing world, and even people who live in the developed world are increasingly facing a situation where they either don't have cooling available or they have insufficient cooling. Our technology will make that situation disappear, and that's our goal. I'm Sansa Kasadi. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you, Sansa. Can you first answer if you envision this product being primarily off-grid or like a grid-connected solution?
Yeah, great question. We are actually, our first product, the refrigerators, will have a component of on-grid power usage. So we're targeting 90% reductions in electricity costs. Most important thing is that it's not 100%. One of the things that we're working on at Argonne is developing electric power production using the same basic process. And so eventually our refrigerators will be powered by that electricity as opposed to grid powered. So eventually what we're hoping is that a lot of these applications will be completely grid independent.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, we do have one more question. Can you give a high-level overview of how the water purification process would work with your technology?
Yeah, sure. So what we have developed already is a distillation process. So we can basically take any source of water and distill the clean water out. Now, normally that'd be like the worst way in the world to clean water. But if the energy is effectively free coming out of the air, then it turns out that it doesn't matter, as long as you have the wattage that you need, it doesn't matter, like you're not paying for that energy. So it becomes a very good way to purify water. So we do have that technology developed and working, but we're not going in that direction at the moment just because for us, it made more sense from a business perspective to go into refrigeration initially.
That certainly makes sense. Okay, cool. I think that's all the time we have for Cascadi Enterprises today, but thank you again. And next up, we have Sarah presenting Inspired Solutions.
Great. Okay. Yeah, thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Meyer. I'm the COO of Inspired Solutions. We are a women-owned, women-led company committed to sustainability. Today, I'm going to talk to you about a threat to clean water known as PFAS and our technology that destroys it. Next slide. Let me start by saying we're grateful for the opportunity to showcase our clean water technology today. Special thanks to Evergreen and the Heartland Climate Tech Partnership for their leadership in accelerating Midwest innovations. One of our close partners is Centropolis Accelerator. They're another member of the partnership. Centropolis has been key in supporting us in building a network of investors, advocates, and customers. Next slide, please. So let's talk about PFAS. This is a class of carcinogenic, extremely persistent contaminants referred to as forever chemicals. PFAS has been used for over 60 years in firefighting foams and household products. As a result, in this virtual room today, more than 95% of us have measurable levels of PFAS in our blood. Now we know that PFAS is toxic, and entities such as military bases that conducted firefighting trainings, water utilities, and many manufacturing facilities are scrambling to find effective approaches to deal with PFAS in waste streams and drinking water supplies. Next slide, please. The current available PFAS treatments capture PFAS for disposal in landfills. Unfortunately, this allows this forever chemical to re-enter the environment, thereby starting the cycle all over again. Next slide. The only way to permanently break the cycle is to destroy the PFAS molecules. Next slide. Fortunately, that's exactly what our solution, the PFASigator, will do: destroy PFAS in water. Next slide. PFASigator uses EPA award-winning patented chemistry, meeting EPA's criteria for energy use and PFAS destruction. And in fact, we recently also won a prize from the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy at a Centropolis sponsored competition for clean tech innovations. Next slide. The PFASigator is a chemical reaction system for destroying PFAS in water, and it includes scalable equipment and subscriptions to reagents and IP licenses for typical remediation project lifetimes of 15 to 20 years. Next slide. The PFASigator is a modular, scalable, fully automated reactor that can be used alone or plugged directly into existing water treatment trains. Typically, there are also efficiencies to be gained in energy use and overall operational costs when a pre-treatment system is used in conjunction with the PFASigator that pre-concentrates PFAS. Inspired Solutions has existed for 1 year, and here's our traction to date. We have booked more than $300,000 of work. Our equipment design is complete. And the first PFASigator is being assembled right now to be shipped for a field test by the end of November. Next slide. We consider the federal government to be our beachhead market. We know their legacy PFAS contamination is considerable, and we're already working with the DoD to help them destroy their PFAS. But we're also working on commercial collaborations with major environmental firms by lining up additional field tests. And this includes contract negotiations with a water treatment company to lease equipment at 4 testing sites. Next slide. So let's talk about market potential. The Environmental Business Journal has estimated the US market for PFAS remediation is $160 billion. Our initial market, our target clients are federal agencies and water utilities, and those represent a $7 billion market. Next slide. PFAS destruction is an unoccupied space, and there are emerging competitors moving at a similar pace to Inspired Solutions. Our PFASigator is in a strong position to capture market due to its low energy use, best equipment safety, operating at standard temperature and pressure, no toxic byproducts, a small footprint, and scalability. Next slide. Beyond the ability to efficiently destroy PFAS, we believe our customers will appreciate that low energy use and the versatility of our product because of our small footprint and our mobile system. We can also offer PFASigator for purchase or lease, depending what our customers are looking for. Next slide. In 2023, we will intensify marketing and begin rapid PFASigator production to enter a fast growth period to reach $60 million in revenues in 2026. This projection is based on deploying equipment to 400 facilities, working with up to 10 clients. Next slide. And this is another view of our rapid growth projection, showing the contribution of our recurring subscription revenues in yellow. Next slide. We are currently at TRL 6 and transitioning to TRL 7 by doing a pilot test in fourth quarter this year. We're also interested in building relationships to support an investment of $3 million with a strategic partner. This will fund us to build 10 PFASigators and continue team expansion, overall providing an 18-month runway for rapid growth. Next slide. Inspired Solutions has a strong, experienced leadership team shown here. Our co-founders are Denise Kay and Meng Wang, and Suzanne Witt is our research director. We're also currently growing, hiring additional lab and field implementation staff, and expanding our advisors. And last slide, please. Finally, I want to acknowledge some of our partners and advisors in launching the PFASigator. Those are seen here. Thank you so much for inviting us today. Again, I'm Sarah Meyer with Inspired Solutions, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you, Sarah. Are there any other emerging solutions that you're competing with besides capturing PFAS and disposing of it at a landfill?
Yes, there are. There are several different techniques out there that we're aware of. And as I mentioned, they are at a similar phase of development that we are, in that they're startups. And we believe our product is competitive with those for those reasons that I listed, primarily in the energy use. Some of the other methods that are out there, supercritical water oxidation, for example, require tremendous energy use. And ours, because it operates at standard temperature and pressure, and for other reasons, has a very low energy use, and that really cuts down on the cost of operation.
Great, thank you. I think that's all the time we have for Inspired Solutions.
Great.
Oh,
Thank you.
for the answer. Cool. And last up, we have Manuela presenting for CDI.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining me today. So let me get started over here. As was mentioned, you all can see my screen still, right?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so as was mentioned, I'm Manuela Zonenstein, the CEO and founder of CDI. And at CDI, we are trying to address this mess. We all know that we are drowning in plastic, but avoiding single-use plastic bottles can feel like swimming upstream, or worse yet, like swimming alone. And it's no wonder. Last year, the sale of reusable water bottles brought in $2 billion, while sale of single-use plastic water bottles pulled in $40 billion. That's 20 times more. And it's set to get worse. By 2030, reusable bottles will pull in about $2.6 billion, while single-use plastic water bottles will command $67 billion, or 25 times worse. At CDI, we've built the world's first closed-loop beverage vending system. We aim to eliminate single-use containers for beverages forever. I'm Manuela, the CEO and founder. This is my third startup, and I started working on this idea while working at Palantir Technologies, leading business development focused on CPG. I'm joined by Raj Chauhan, our CTO, who has 3 decades experience taking hardware, IoT, and software products to market, and Liz Leonardo is our COO, CFO, who took Desktop Metal public last year as their CFO. Our patent pending station is like a vending machine in size, and like a vending machine, conveniently vends beverages. That's where the similarities end, because when you're done, you return the container to any station, and the station washes, sanitizes, inspects, and refills the bottle for the next user. We are combining for the first time a bottling plant with a dishwasher, with a soda fountain in a 7.5 square foot box. Vending machines and refrigerators will go green with envy at our impact and our profit margins. Let me walk you through the experience of our target customer. We're focused on industrial workers, not white-collar workers. Think construction workers, manufacturing workers, and refinery workers. These workplaces have been overlooked by future of work innovation, yet these workers most need hydration solutions in a warming climate. Let me walk you through a user's experience. Every worker will receive a custom QR code anonymously distributed by their employer. Scan that on the front of the station, and in seconds, he or she receives their beverage of choice. We currently provide flat, filtered, microplastic-free water. And next year, we can support carbonation as well as any flavoring. When done, she returns the bottle. We've had a 100% bottle return rate at our pilots with no penalty or deposit. Every bottle has the laser etched serialized QR code on the bottom So every bottle is unique and identifiable, which means through our web app that for the first time, these workers now can understand their hydration stats, think step trackers for water, and that we can report to them their carbon and waste footprint reduction. And today I'm proud to announce that we've signed a contract with a $2 billion construction site where we will start by providing all water needs for their managers and engineers, expanding to provide all beverages for 1,100 tradespeople over 5 years. We make money by selling or leasing our units to the corporate and or to the distributor. We provide data feeds and reporting subscriptions. We revenue share with beverage companies who can put their flavorings and bags in box in our station as a new channel. And we provide carbon offset sales. As you can see, we have a path to eliminate all single-use beverage containers forever, but we are not a beverage brand. We are a decentralized beverage bottling and distribution platform on top of which all beverage commerce will flow. Health and sustainability are not only for the wealthy 1%. Everyone deserves access to clean water, and with CDI, we can all be part of the solution, so you no longer have to feel like you're swimming alone. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Manuel, and congratulations on the initial contract.
Thank
What
you.
geographic region are you targeting primarily? And can you talk more about your expansion strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're squarely focused on the Midwest. We are headquartered in Chicago. The construction site is in Indianapolis, and we are now finalizing contracts with meat processing plants, refineries, and an assembly plant, all in Minnesota and also in Illinois. So we really believe that the story we're telling by focusing locally not only is powerful because that is where a lot of this industrial workforce resides, but also because that reusable water bottle market mostly exists on the coasts, whereas single-use beverages are still very predominantly consumed in the Midwest. And we want to demonstrate that these communities actually want a safe, reusable option. And what CDI can do is show that reusable options can actually be mainstream and that sustainability and health, as I mentioned, are not only for the wealthy 1%.
Very cool. What do you think is your greatest inhibitor to rapid deployment of your machines?
So we are finishing up R&D at the moment. As I explained, we're adding the carbonation and flavoring capability. We are also entering R&D for stainless steel bottles. Our first bottle iteration is glass. We have an inspection subsystem powered by AI. And so we're preparing to roll out the stainless steel bottles. And that's what will allow us to expand, for example, at that construction site beyond the managers and engineers in their trailer to the actual construction pit. So those are two elements. And then the other one is our fully autonomous unit, which will provide the full wash, sanitize, inspect, and refill potential, will be ready by the end of January. So it's a big push into R&D. And then I think like every hardware company that was referenced here, right, we all are ultimately in the cash flow management business. And so we're being really creative about, on the one hand, raising great venture capital for growth, but also looking into and starting to capture debt and equipment financing as other options for funding our inventory. We don't believe that venture capital is the right mix. It's not the right fit for our capital stack to fund inventory.
Yep, that totally makes sense. And it sounds like you've had a lot of exciting progress. So great.
Thank you.
So that concludes the company presentation portion of today's webinar. Thank you again to all the presenters for not only presenting, but all the important work you're doing in this super critical industry and something that will only grow in importance over time. At this point, I'm going to pass it over to my teammate, Allie, who's going to discuss in a little bit more detail the Heartland Climate Tech Partnership.
Thank you, Shashank. And thanks to all 5 of the startups who gave some really great pitches today. So each of these 5 startups come from different programs that collectively make up the Heartland Climate Tech Partnership, as Sarah said earlier in today's webinar. So this partnership is made up of Evergreen Climate Innovations, MHub, Centropolis Accelerator in Michigan, Innovation Crossroads, NREL, Chain Reaction Innovations, and the Spark Clean Tech Accelerator at the Spark Innovation Center in Tennessee. So we really span the whole Midwest. And together we advance the commercialization of innovative climate tech and clean energy businesses across the greater Midwest region. Next slide. So since 2021, we're really proud to offer accelerator programs all across the region, virtual and in-person events, just like this one today, sector-specific curriculum, mentorship, prototyping resources, and connections with industry experts. So just recently, we launched our website at heartland-climate.org. So I definitely recommend checking that out, where you can see a really wide range of resources available for climate tech entrepreneurs all across the Midwest. So this includes information on accelerators, incubators and co-working spaces, physical lab spaces, educational resources, fellowships, challenges, and much more. So there's a really easy to use database that you can search by what you're looking for, filter by what state you're in, and find the right program for you. And also on the website, you can learn more about each of the programs that these startups pitch from today. And you can stay up to date with our upcoming event calendar as well. So you can find more fun webinars to attend in the future. With that, I'll pass it back over to Shashank to wrap things up and share some exciting upcoming opportunities that are on the horizon.
Thanks, Ellie. So for Evergreen, we're currently undergoing the next investment cycle. So we're actively doing diligence and assessing new opportunities. Any prospective companies are welcome to submit their documents and information to us at any time. And typically our checks range from $200,000 to $300,000. And like I said earlier, we focus on sustainability startups in the greater Midwest area, which we define as roughly Denver to Pittsburgh. So I think at this point, I want to talk about some upcoming opportunities that we have. So we'll have another informational session on Thursday, November 17th, where we'll talk about some of the events and also talk about our upcoming investment deadlines. There's also going to be upcoming informational webinars on Tuesday, October 18th and November 8th and November 28th. And yeah, I believe that's it. Cool. So thank you again, everyone. Thanks for attending this webinar and again, bringing some visibility into the critical water space now and going forward into the future. I have no doubt that we're all doing very important work and it'll only continue to grow in importance. So thank you again, and I wish you the best of the rest of the day. Goodbye.